Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. According to the World Bank, more than 55 million Africans live within 10 meters of sea level. In Lagos, Nigeria, coastal erosion persists, washing away several communities, a threat amplified by both climate change and human activities. Arise environment correspondent Laila Johnson-Salami has been documenting this crisis since June 2022. In this revealing report, she unveils the severity of the crisis, putting lives at risk and impacting the livelihoods of millions of people.
Do you know how many trees were here? 350 trees along this coast, just this area alone. Coconut trees. Giving coconuts every time. How many are left? Because of the erosion. And we said, come and do something in time.
Nestled along the sprawling coastline of Lagos lies a community with a name that resonates with resilience, Okun Alpha. Our first visit into this enclave, dating back to August 2022, unfurled a chilling tale of the unforgiving ocean surges. The walls of this house, once sturdy guardians of familial memories, had already been partially dismantled.
I'm living here, let's say more than 15 years now, and the water is very far to the house. I can't even point at where the water was when I came. I can't even point at it now. It got worse. So I have to pass window, jump out to the room because there's no frontage to come out again.
2 months later, we visited this community again, and the very essence of Mary's home in Okun Alpha had been swallowed whole by the Atlantic Ocean.
As you can see, the last time you came, the house is still far from the water is still far from the house, but now the water have carried the house away.
Fast forward to November 2023, and the situation in Okun Alpha had taken a turn for the worse, reaching an even more alarming state. In this distressingly short span of time, several meters of once vibrant land had been irrevocably claimed by the encroaching sea. The tale unfolds over a century, tracing its origins to the ambitious endeavors of British colonial authorities. Their vision materialized in the dredging of the Lagos Harbour, an ambitious project that birthed 2 formidable moles, etching the blueprint for port development. A glance at this Google Earth satellite image pinpoints the exact locations of these historical moles.
Constructing these groins is to prevent the silting of the Lagos Lagoon because it's a harbor channel. If they do not construct those groins, there will be a lot of silting, a lot of sand in the channel that will make vessels to ground. On the western side, that is the Lighthouse Beach environment, we have accretion of sand, a lot of sediments there. But on the eastern side, which we call the downdrift side, we have no sand.
Information provided by researchers from the Nigeria Meteorological Agency states that between 1990 and 2002, 18 different ocean surge events were recorded in Victoria Island. The inevitable surrender to the forces of nature finally transpired in 2005. Concrete units had been strategically deployed in the water, a preliminary measure to shield the troubled coastline. However, it became undeniably clear that a more enduring solution was imperative. Eco Atlantic stands as a groundbreaking project, boldly occupying 10 million square meters of reclaimed land. The idea was birthed in 2003, and when construction started in 2008, the stakes were not merely measured in structural damage. An estimated 460 billion naira in yearly rental revenue hung in precarious balance. Spearheaded by South Energy X Nigeria, a subsidiary of the Shaguri Group, the development of Eco Atlantic is not merely a testament to Lagos's growth, but the city is promoted as an ambitious solution to the persistent menace of ocean surges.
When people sandfill areas, we think that we are absorbing the water. That's the erroneous mistake or erroneous conception that people have. That's a very strong misconception. What we do is that we are displacing the water.
This project is not the sole protagonist in Lagos's ambitious saga of land reclamation. It shares the stage with several other transformative developments, including the illustrious Banana Island, an enclave perched on over 1.6 million square meters of reclaimed land.
Whether it adds to the ocean pressure or not, we must close the housing gap. So Lagos is already limited and we are all bounded by water. We have done all the environmental impact assessment, we have done all the geotechnical, everything that we need to do has been done before we come up with the project. And what Lagos State is trying to control is further reclamation of land around the Banana Island axis, because it is the further reclamation that is the problem.
Venturing further down the dynamic Lagos coast, the landscape transforms into the expanding canvas of the Lekki Free Zone.
The Lekki Free Trade Zone is a properly well-conceived, well-planned project. Do you understand? And what we should guide against is to guide against any form of sprawl that may be encouraged in the future by legislation, such that somebody does not come after this administration and say, oh, we are going to extend it just simply because you want more land. No.
The Nigerian Environmental Impact Assessment Act of 1992 stands as a pivotal legal framework mandating the evaluation of environmental effects before granting authorization for any project. However, some projects appear to have started without approved environmental impact assessments. For example, it is documented that reclamation activities for Eco Atlantic started in 2008.
Basically, before you are approved to reclaim any land in Lagos State, the law requires you to do your environmental impact assessment. So it's a prerequisite for you to even do reclamation that you must obtain the EIA.
But the EIA for the new city was submitted to the Federal Ministry of Environment in November 2011 and approved in January 2012. Nigeria's dredging laws also play a crucial role in regulating activities that involve the extraction of sand and sediments from water bodies.
You cannot just dredge without understanding the coastal processes, what it will mean to the other side of the environment. So we should be concerned about the ways through which areas are dredged.
There is also a large community of artisanal miners in Lagos who manually extract sand and sediment from water bodies. Many of these artisans and suppliers assert their legitimacy and say they are supported by the government.
Iṣẹ́ yẹ̀pẹ̀ títà ni mò ń ṣe. Mo jẹ́ ọ̀kan lára ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ níwà. So wọ́n recognize iṣẹ́ wa dáadáa. No, a kì í ṣe illegal. Kódà government fún wa, wọ́n fọwọ́ sí. A ní ID card pẹ̀lú wọn tó máa ń ṣe fún wa lọ́dọọdún, a dẹ̀ ń sanwó tax wa náà.
So just like we form association of boat owners so that we can be able to manage them well, that's how they form the association of sand sellers and sand miners.
The repercussions of human activities extend to businesses situated on the coastline. Jumbo construction sacks, scaffolding mesh, and 5,000 pieces of bamboo have been placed here along this 100-meter beachfront at Jara Beach Resort. The problem started earlier, but in August 2023, ocean surges pulled down the entire wall at this property. This protection is a cost-effective, eco-friendly approach, and it's proven effective so far. When you opened Jarrah Beach Resort, were you aware of just how serious coastal erosion has been in Lagos in recent years?
So when we were putting together our business plan and our case for this venture, frankly speaking, it didn't play a part as much as we wish it had now. At the time of November 2019, we had around 20-25 meters of sand beach before it dropped down to the ocean, which is very similar to what we'd experienced in the 2-3 years prior. So nothing really stood out to us as something we should be worried about. And then subsequently, things got pretty drastic pretty quickly.
Furthermore, about 150 meters away from the vibrant landmark beach strip in Oniru, a dredging ship has been situated in the waters since September 2023.
Yes, it's a dredging ship. It is an upper dredger. You understand? So a dredger is working and delivering sand. You understand? They are not dredging from where they are positioned.
An unnamed source working in this community spoke to us under the condition of anonymity.
This dredger has been there for over 6 months, and I mean it. When you look towards my front here, you will discover that they are about to fill the whole water. They are about to get the whole water filled. Once they succeed in doing all these things, believe me, there won't be water again. When there's no water, that means there won't be anything like a beach any longer.
We do have also a competition between the oceans and people wanting to have more space to live on the seafront. So you have many communities that are being affected. But more importantly, the fact that we're also dirtying that water. And that further exacerbates the level of erosion in these waters.
While there is much criticism directed at Eco Atlantic City, the developers have taken a proactive step in addressing the impact of erosion by developing an independent drainage network through a canal system and a reservoir designed to regulate the flow of water.
There are many cities that have looked at this, that have had water issues. Netherlands has done that, so you would see middle of the cities like kind of waterways coming in, and that it releases that pressure.
With the way that the population of Lagos is rising, a lot of the places that are being designed are being redesigned to accommodate the population. Sometimes the redesign is not even done by the government. The redesign is done by the Omoniles. They've gone to sell land to people. What do you want us to do about that?
It's quite clear that contraventions, planning contraventions, in other words, building close to setbacks or on setbacks, are illegal. And I'm afraid to say that the government is going to have to take action in those cases.
Alarming projections from the Nigerian Conservation Foundation highlight a critical scenario.
So as at 25th of August, when we did this modeling, as at 25th of August, this red line this is now the ocean. This is the reference house, and between that year, in 4 years, I think 2018 and 2022, we've lost 128 meters. Now, the projection of the least distance the sea will have eroded to is, so if we take 128 meters from here to here, by 2026, this is where it will be at. By the time it gets here, this is the Sandfield area, this is the LCC, the expressway is somewhere in front here. So by the time it gets here, all of these places are low-lying. The water will have just a few days and flow freely into the expressway. And that is why we're saying, by the time the erosion continues for another 50 meters, it will be on the flat ground, which means that there will be a free flow of ocean towards the Lekki Expressway, submerging everything in its path. So these we are projecting to happen latest 2024.
From Okun Alpha to the ambitious Eco Atlantic project, the struggle to balance urban development with ecological preservation unfolds. Despite the urgent appeals of residents and businesses for effective solutions, the elusive resolution to this impending submersion persists. As we reflect on this unfolding narrative, it becomes evident that, in the end, nature will claim its territory, underscoring the need for sustainable practices and resilient strategies to harmonize with the formidable forces of the ocean. Laila Johnson-Salami, Arise News.
Well, the delectable Laila Johnson-Salami, Arise Environment correspondent, joins us now for a quick overview of that deep articulation of the existential threat that erosion and flooding have become to Lagos. Good to see you, Laila. Congratulations. I mean, Laila, you have been away for what, over a year now?
No, since May.
Since May. And you have been working in between.
I have.
Congratulations on your amazing delivery. Nova, she's
Thank
5
you.
months old.
Yes, she is.
Oh, beautiful. Well
I was
done.
going to say keeping me up at night, but she's actually sleeping through the night now. So, yeah, no, it's a great joy.
Yes, okay, you're doing very well. And, you know, we see that you're still working and you're still, you know, looking fabulous.
Thank you.
And, you know, your package is amazing. I mean, for me, I was gutted with all of that information that you just shared. And the fact that really nothing is being done to these people that are, for these people that are in that coastal line. I mean, what do you think? I mean, I also heard someone saying that those people need to be cleared away from that coastal line. The human existential threat of this erosion, this crisis, is really alarming.
It is really alarming. And firstly, it's lovely to be here with the three of you today at Ituashe OG. Look, this is something that we've been looking into for quite a while, simply because we thought it was going to be important for us to track the rate of erosion in Lagos ourselves. And before I answer your question, I just want to state to our viewers that the full documentary will be coming out later on today. It's a 45-minute documentary, so this is a shorter version. So please catch that if you can, because it's very informative. Now, what we're seeing is several communities in Lagos are being washed away, and silently. And it sort of seems like an out of sight, out of mind problem. This isn't something that's just caused by human activity, but human activity is playing a major role. And we can go all the way back to British colonial authorities, as I spoke about in the report. Now, Lagos was a perfect place for a port to be developed, but the waterways were too shallow. So what did the British colonial authorities do? They built 2 moles and dredged the harbors to allow ships to basically be able to come in. However, what that did is, because we have a west to east drift in our waters in the Atlantic Ocean on the West African coast, all of the sand and sediments got trapped on the west side, and the east side got no replenishment whatsoever. That's why in 2005, we saw that Bar Beach was eventually completely washed away. And I must say, even though there's so much criticism towards large projects, large land reclamation projects like Eco Atlantic, if not for Eco Atlantic, Victoria Island 100% would be underwater by now and completely swallowed whole by the ocean. However, when we're looking at these land reclamation projects that we've put into place and we're still developing, we have to consider how sustainable they are. So what we've seen is that since the development of Eco Atlantic, which is a huge project, nothing short of monumental, since its development, a lot of erosion has been exacerbated further east of the coast. So we have to now start looking at protecting those communities. We have groins in the water, but these groins, and for anyone who may not know what groins are, they're basically the big rocks that are put into the water. We have about 7 or 8 kilometers of groins from Victoria Island to about just before Alpha Beach, or where Alpha Beach is. However, you get experts that argue that there's a big problem with the design of the groins, and this design of groins that we have in the water is not going to stop erosion. What's worrying is that it seems the Lagos state government ignored expert advice given by the Nigerian Institutes for Oceanography and Marine Research, which is a federal institute. They were brought in to give their expert advice, put up simulations for us to understand how bad the problem is, what the best solutions are, but they say, and they've told us, that their advice was ignored. Now, because you only have 7 to 8 kilometers of groins and well over 100 kilometers of coastline in Lagos, what you're doing is communities that aren't protected by the groins are getting even faster rates of erosion. And to end on that note of human activities, another thing is acidification. We're dirtying our waters so much, and we don't realize that pollution of waters also leads to coastal erosion. So these are some of the human factors that are at play here. And it's quite worrying because a solution needs to be put into place fast. Otherwise, what we're looking at is not good at all. We may be seeing the Atlantic Ocean on the major Lekki-Epe expressway way sooner than people could possibly imagine.
Okay, so Laila, let's speak about solutions, because now it's out there and we're seeing more. I mean, we're even dealing right now with the heat wave. And, even before we came on, I was asking you what the connection was between that. You spoke about, the rise or the drop in global temperatures depending on what part of the world you're in. Can you speak to me more about that, that connection and what can be done as fast as possible? I mean, you speak about the Atlantic Ocean covering Lekki Expressway as early as this year. You already have so much going on in Lagos and in Nigeria. We don't need, flooding being added to that. What are the immediate solutions, for, the federal government and, this administration to start to work on?
Thanks, Shaitan. Firstly, just to note, that projection is given by the Nigerian Conservation Foundation. I've spoken to people in government, including the General Manager of the Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency, who argues otherwise and says that the environmental impact assessments that has been done on the Lekki-Epe Expressway is solid, and he doesn't believe that the Atlantic Ocean could end up there. But I just want to explain why this projection has been given. When you take a community like Okun Alpha, where it's eroding very, very quickly, what you have is now a strip that's the last bit of solid land in that community. After that solid land, and let's say it's like this, after that solid land, all of this is sand-filled, right? And sand-filled land cannot hold off the forces of the Atlantic Ocean in the way that solid land can. So a lot of those projections are based on the fact that once this final strip, which there's about 30 meters left, that's nothing considering how quickly it's eroding. Once that goes, how is the sand-filled land going to be able to hold off the Atlantic Ocean, right? So that's why those projections are scary. But to speak to solutions here, it's interesting because there are long-term solutions and short-term solutions. If we're looking at long-term solutions, we've got to look at countries like Amsterdam. Now, one thing that Eco Atlantic has done in this new city is they've developed a canal system and reservoirs. And what that does is it releases pressures from the ocean. And releasing ocean or relieving us of ocean pressure is very important if we want to save ourselves as much as we can from the realities that we're facing. So can Lagos, a city of, over 20 million people, where urban planning and laws and regulations around this clearly haven't been adhered to, can a city like Lagos start looking at developing these sorts of canal systems that we see in Amsterdam, developing these reservoirs? It's going to take a lot. It's going to mean knocking down houses and businesses in several areas that are built where they shouldn't be built. And these are things that are quite political, so it's difficult to look at it and say, you can imagine an administration wanting to do that. But you also brought up heat. Now, what happens is the world is warming, right? So climate change is undeniably a huge factor here. The world is warming. And as the world warms, you have ocean pressures rising, sea levels rising. That leads to more ocean pressure as well. So global warming is 100% playing its role here, just being exacerbated by human activity. And last point on short-term solutions to this problem. If we're looking at what we can do in the short term, it's really, really difficult to say. You can say Lagos should develop more groins. Groins themselves take years to put in the water. That's one. Two, can we make sure that if we do that, this time we follow expert advice that's given, so that we actually have groins that are making sense and doing what they should? And how many kilometers of groins can we realistically put in the waters to ensure that Lagos as a whole is protected? And not just Lagos, the whole of the Nigerian coastline. Because you protect just Lagos, you can still push the problem elsewhere. Ondo State, Bayelsa State, everywhere else that you have that's touched along this coastline. So it's quite difficult to say what the short-term solutions could be, but experts really need to come together and figure something out here.
You interviewed the owner, I believe, of Jara.
Yes.
And so the economic costs to this erosion, can you explore that a bit more?
Absolutely. So if you take a business like Jara Beach Resort, when they first started, Mark Slade and his wife, Millie Slade, they'd been visiting that area, Eleko, for ages, and they said, you know what, let's start our own resort here. But they didn't understand how serious coastal erosion was as a problem. Now, the solution that they went for, which is an eco-friendly approach with lots of bamboo and these construction sacks, it's something that's been used in parts of Asia before. It's proven effective. It can last, it can give you a few years, but that was their cheapest option. Right? And that cheapest option was still, I believe, about 2 months of revenue from the entire business. So it's not cheap whatsoever. The more expensive options were running into hundreds of thousands of dollars and even more than that, and how much can a small business really and truly afford? But they had to protect what they had built because ocean surges knocked down the entire wall at that property. And I must say, it's not just coming from the more industrial side of Lagos, the Victoria Islands, etc., the busier sides. You also have a lot of developments now going on the other side too. We have the Lekki Free Zone, which is expanding. It's partially built on reclaimed land, and so now we're sort of in a way getting hit from both sides. So it's quite serious. The economic costs are real, affecting many small business owners. You take an area like Landmark, for example. If you sand fill that whole area, all of these businesses on that strip are built on one thing, having people come to the beach. If there's no beach for people to come to again, you have several business owners there that have nothing left. So it's about taking small businesses into consideration as well, because they really are fueling our economy.
This has been a fantastic conversation. I'm looking forward to that 45-minute package that'll be airing on a Newsday to get more about this. It's been such a pleasure having you in the studio.
It's been great to be back. Long time.
Thank you very much for everything you're doing. The advocacy for climate change is phenomenal, and you need to continue to push. And we look forward to seeing you hopefully next week.
Actually, I think you will see me next week, but I won't say anything about that just yet.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us on the morning show today, Laila.